Ohio State spoiled Jim Knowles' return to Columbus, dismantling Penn State 38-14.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to Locked On Buckeyes live after Ohio State's 38-14 win over Penn State. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, veteran sports talk host, delivering passionate coverage about your Buckeyes. And today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. During today's show, we will discuss what Julian Sayin did inside Ohio Stadium as that man put on a show and how the Buckeyes responded when they were punched in the mouth. But first, anytime Ohio State and Penn State get together on the football field, you expect abnormal things to happen, from Tuimaoloau's masterful plays a couple of years ago, which also had a comeback in that game, Igbenogsen's pick before halftime in last year's contest, maybe even Joey Bosa pushing the tackle back at Christian Hackenberg to end the game in double overtime. There are a lot of things that are weird that happen in this game, but you know one thing that's happened over the past 8 years, now 9 in a row, is that Ohio State has won. And in this year's game, when the Buckeyes played Penn State, it was going to be a little bit different because Penn State's full of talent, but Penn State is not the normal Penn State team that they normally are. But Penn State rolled in, played very good ball in the first half. They pulled out some different tricks and called some great plays. But at the end of the day, Ohio State flexed their muscle and dismantled Penn State in a 38-14 win in front of the home crowd that was loud from Jump Street. And we know these noon games with big noon kickoff aren't Ohio State fans' favorite, but the Buckeye fans flocked to Ohio Stadium with the blackout. Y'all followed the message and y'all heard it and you followed through, and I love it. It's all a ton of black all over the stadium all game long. But we also saw Ohio State take down Penn State, where Penn State has offensive firepower and weapons that could really, if they're hitting on all cylinders, torch a lot of defenses around the country. But no, for the first time this year, Penn State didn't lose in a one-score game, which is big. Ohio State won 38-14, and there was nothing Penn State could do to slow down Ohio State at all. By the numbers, we'll look at that part of the show in a second, but it was very big for Ohio State to come off of the off week and to flex their muscle against a very talented opponent, and they did that. Ryan Day, Brian Hartline, Matt Patricia, and other coaches had these guys ready for battle. Julian Sayin showed up and showed everybody why he should be the guy who won the Heisman at the end of the season. He made so many throws and even got a touchdown pass on a bad read when Jeremiah Smith caught the ball that was tipped at the line of scrimmage. Hats off to JJ. Hats off to Sayin for just putting on a show in front of the home crowd. But offensively, defensively, everybody followed the game plan. And it was just another sign that Ohio State is clearly the best team in the country, because Ohio State could have rolled into this game and said, oh, this is going to be a normal Penn State-Ohio State game, another close fight. But they didn't do that. They didn't allow Penn State to continue the momentum that they built in the first half. Think about what happened at the end of the first half. We're going to do this a little bit earlier than expected, but Ohio State went into the halftime with only a 3-point lead. 17-14. Penn State scored on their final drive before the half. It was when they capitalized on a C.J. Donaldson fumble, on first down when Penn State got the ball back inside the red zone. Penn State gets the ball. They score. They interviewed Terry Smith at halftime, and I'm thinking, shouldn't you interview the winning coach, a team that's at least up at halftime? They interviewed the coach that's down at half. Thought that was an interesting move. I understand not the first time that we have seen that. I thought it was interesting. And then what happened? Ohio State comes out there. They score 21 unanswered points, and the game was over. But it's because of what the players are doing. There's no answer for Julian Sayin, for Carnell, Tate, Jeremiah Smith, and those guys. No. But the Buckeyes got different guys involved. Ben Christian caught a touchdown pass. Max Clare was the security and safety net that Ohio State needed him to be. You saw some 14 personnel that was being more physical and being the aggressor that they needed to be defensively. Cade McDonald, KENYATTA Jackson Jr., my goodness. These guys put on a show. Into 9 straight games over Penn State, a team that has a lot of talent. I mean, there's a reason why there were 17 NFL teams that had scouts or representatives at Ohio Stadium today. Because this game is a game where a lot of guys on the field today are going to get drafted. If not this year, maybe over the next 3 to 4 years, because they are that good. Bo Jackson, in a few years, are going to get drafted probably pretty high if he continues to be developed. Isaiah West, who has jumped James Peoples in the depth chart, he is going to get drafted as long as he continues to be developed. There are other guys that are older, and Caleb Downs and Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles. Those guys are going to get drafted, and they stepped up. The Buckeyes had numerous players step up and adjust on the fly in real time to secure this 38-14 win. Now, I know there are going to be people that watch this game and say, well, Penn State's trash. Penn State has a losing record. They have not won a Big Ten game. They might not be well eligible. This is not a good reason to say that Ohio State's clearly the number one team in the country. And I would like to say, pause. You're wrong. This is just another stamp on the Buckeyes' resume as to why they are the number one team in the country. The most points anybody has scored on Ohio State this year is 16. That is a title that is going to Illinois. Penn State scored 14 points, but even then, they were shut out in the second half. They also scored the only touchdowns Ohio State has allowed in the first half. So those might be negative marks by someone looking at resume. But when I look at the eye test, comparing Ohio State to everybody else in the country, there's no doubt about it. What we saw today is another reason why Ohio State is the best team in the country. And the numbers are one thing, but man, my eyeballs just keep telling me that Ohio State's going to find a way to suffocate any team they play. They're going to find a way to maybe allow a backup quarterback to maybe complete a few passes, but never let him get comfortable. And Ethan Grunkemeyer, the Ohio native that went to school and grew up 20 minutes from Ohio Stadium, he came in, it was a homecoming, but you knew you couldn't allow him to get comfortable, and he didn't. You knew that Penn State was going to try to allow Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton to be the guys to put the ball in the end zone for Penn State. You knew that going into the game. They got some action early. Maybe the Buckeyes got a little shook up, but I don't really think they did. They knew what happened has happened. We can't change that. The only thing we can control is how we come back and how we respond. And so hats off to everybody involved. This was not a game where you saw a bunch of penalties or a bunch of fighting back and forth. No, it was a clean, hard-fought football game where Penn State's very talented, but the talent wasn't enough to even keep this thing close. The Buckeyes win 38-14, and I'm curious what your thoughts are about this win, as this is just another feather in the cap for Ohio State where they're dismantling Penn State. Penn State couldn't get anything going in the second half. Nothing at all. By the numbers, Penn State only had 60 yards of offense in the second half alone. 140 of those yards were in the first half. So if you hold an opponent, a team, in your conference to only 60 total yards in the second half of a game, you're doing a lot of things right, and you're showing everybody why Ohio State has one of the better defense in the country. And the defense responded in a pretty big way. When the Buckeyes got punched in the mouth in the first half, the Buckeyes offense and defense came up the second half and realized what happened in the first half does not have to tell the story of what's going to happen for the rest of the game. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward is easily going to Julian Sayin, number 10, who is moving up the Heisman rankings right now as being a favorite to win the award, because in this game, Julian Sayin showed the poise, showed the accuracy, showed the ability to hit the deep ball and be very accurate and on time when throwing to his playmakers. Julian Sayin is the man. And it was Julian Sayin's show for most of the game because this young man showed up and showed out in front of the home fans. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Thank y'all for tapping and Locked on Buckeyes live after Ohio State's 38-14 win over Penn State. Now, with this being the 9th win over Penn State in a row, you may think, Jay, this is like the previous games. And as we just detailed, it was not like the other games in this rivalry. However, there was a moment in this game where Penn State was building confidence. And they went into the half only down 3. And that could have been a reason why Ohio State could have folded. They could have not come out with the same firepower and the same activity that they needed to come out with. But the Buckeyes got punched in the mouth. And people like myself have been wondering what was going to happen when Ohio State was punched in the mouth, because through the first 7 games, and the Buckeyes are now 8-0, they really hadn't been punched in the mouth much. The only other time you may want to say that was a reality was Texas, maybe. But even then, that was a game that was controlled by Ohio State the entire time. Yes, Arch Manning hit the receiver in the end zone for a touchdown in the fourth quarter. But outside of that, Texas was not in control of that game. Ohio State was. But today, what you saw in this one was Penn State really showing up and saying, we're not going to fold. We're not going to just let Ohio State do whatever they want to do. We're going to show everybody why this is a real game. And when they ended up scoring before the end of the first half on a 3-play drive for 7 yards, I believe this was the drive when, I want to get this correct before saying something incorrect. This was the drive. Computer's not working correctly. They ended up scoring right before the end of the half. And when they ended up scoring, that could have been a part where Ohio State could have folded, not just because of what happened defensively, but because of the ability for that touchdown run by Katron Allen to be followed by, it was right after the fumble by Donaldson. I don't know why my words were not working correctly, but here we are. That fumble and then that touchdown could have been demoralizing mentally for players and for coaches. You come out and you realize, well, we're not really going to do the things we need to do. But the Buckeyes didn't do that. That touchdown didn't define the rest of the game. It was just a snapshot of what had happened in that 4-play drive for 14 yards that was capped off by Katron Allen's 1-yard run. There we go. Computer is back up and running. But after that, Donaldson had a 1-yard run. Rescored. Wouldn't say he redeemed himself, but it was capping off a 5-play, 35-yard drive, taking up 2 minutes and 42 seconds off the clock. Bennett Christian scored later on towards the end of the third quarter. 1-yard pass from Julian Sayin in the back of the end zone, and then Jeremiah Smith caught that pass off the tip, off the defensive lineman of Penn State. That was the final score for the Buckeyes in this game. When you scored 21 unanswered points against a team full of NFL talent, that you know once you are able to flex your muscle, that they'll kind of fold and get backwards and go down, you have to do that. You have to make sure that you are always in the driver's seat. And the Buckeyes got punched in the mouth. They didn't fold. They waver. The coaches kept their minds right, and the rest is history. And a lot was because of the defense in this game. KENYATTA Jackson Jr., Kate McDonald, even the fact that Arvell Reese, numerous times, there was a time where he had a sack, and you saw him at the end of the line of scrimmage kind of bouncing like he knows what's about to happen. The snap of the ball, he ends up going right around the tackle, pushes the tackle's hands down, as well as going a little dip around him. Bam, right there on Grunkemeyer, and he went down for a sack. And we can marvel at Tate and Smith and saying it's going to happen in the very next segment of the show, but let's not gloss over what this defense did, holding Penn State to 200 total yards of offense, 60 yards of total offense in the second half alone. And there weren't many drives where Penn State was able to get anything going. I know they had a couple passes down late in the game, down the seam, and that may be something that I believe will be something Matt Patricia and the other coaches will be working on, because the seam and getting outside, those are the only 2 issues that really happened. They tossed sweep left, which really annoys me, because with as much talent Ohio State has and as well as they play in unison, you would think they'd be able to set the edge or at least adjust to different formations so you are not in a disadvantage at the snap of the ball. But at times they don't do that, and I think that's going in a large part because you trust what you got. But you can trust what you have while also adjusting and being a better coach and team, because you're not just allowing the team to do whatever they want to do and be in complete control. This defense this year continues to step up in big moments. And today's game wasn't one where you're worried about the quarterback. You're more worried about the running backs and Nicholas Singleton and Kaytron Allen and what they can do when they get the ball. The receivers that Penn State brought in from the portal, I'm not sure what happened when they got to State College, but whatever it is, it's almost like they've lost some of their powers, like you're in Space Jam and the Monstars find a way to take the talent from Patrick Ewing, Charles Barkley, and others. It's almost like that because State College receivers, they don't really get better. Like Parker Washington, I know I'm going back a little bit. Parker Washington was good, a really good receiver. But even Julian Sayin, I didn't think he was going to have the year he had last year when he was in Penn State, when he transferred from Ohio State to go back home. I didn't think he was going to have that kind of year, but his numbers now, granted, it's because of the quarterback. That's a possibility. I can't gloss over that. But you also got to factor in how good this defense is. And overall, Ethan Grunkemeyer had 145 passing yards, which was a lot more than I thought he was going to have. He did throw an interception that ended towards the end of the game. That was by Caleb Downs, and hats off to Downs on that play. He was on Kaytron Allen, who was at the front pylon in the end zone, which is on the left side of the offense of the play at that time. Downs, even before he saw the ball was thrown, he slid away from Allen. He was almost playing in the middle. I can go to Kaytron Allen in the front. I can go to the receiver behind me. Just let me know which one I need to go to. And his positioning was great because he went back to the receiver behind him, got the interception, which was right after a targeting call. That was weird. I thought that it was a clean hit because he hit him with the shoulder, but he didn't launch, and the refs ruled it personal foul, but not targeting. And so that's how they viewed that. I did get a little bit nervous because when I saw the launch and the impact of the hit, I was like, oh, this might be targeting. But the refs and the officiating crew said, no, it's not. But on that play, that was one big one because that interception was very, very big. And it just continued to show why Ohio State continued to mentally control and demoralize the mentals of Penn State. The rushing game for Penn State wasn't strong. 55 total yards. A lot of them were negative yards attributed to Ethan Grunkemeyer on sacks. He had 4 carries. He totaled 4 carries for negative 39 yards. If you take those away, yeah, they would be better. They would have been closer to having 100 rushing yards, but they didn't. Penn State's passing attack, he had numerous guys get receptions, but nobody had more than 28 receiving yards total in the game. But you had 6 or 7 guys catch balls, so that is why the number is a little bit spread out. Ohio State had 4 sacks, 7 TFLs. What more could you ask for? What more could you ask for defense? And a lot of that damage was done in the second half. KENYATTA Jackson Jr. and I believe, was it Arvell Reese? I got it written down on my computer, on my notebook. And, Zion Grady, what I'm thinking about. K-Jack and Zion Grady combined for a sack. I believe that was right before a Penn State punt. And I was happy to see Zion Grady out there on the field. Didn't really see much of the other guys. There was a lot of guys that are your main focus, the main guys on the field, and Caden Curry, KENYATTA Jackson Jr., you keep them on the field because this is the kind of game, it's a matchup game. And you're not trying to take those guys off the field because of their production and because of what they mean for the team and how dominant you want the team to continue to be. You're not taking them off the field. And so that may be a sign of things to come down the road when Ohio State travels to Ann Arbor. And then if they continue to stay at this rate playing the Big Ten title game, maybe it could be a thing where you keep 2 defensive ends on the field the entire time. Hats off to the Buckeyes for responding the way you want them to respond while being punched in the mouth, because they could have folded and said, we're not going to do this. We're not going to step up to the plate. But the Buckeyes did what was needed to dismantle Penn State once again. This one was a 9th straight win over the Nittany Lions. It was the Buckeyes win, 38-14. And we've done a lot of talking about the defense and the 9th straight win and what went into it. We haven't dived into Julian Sayin and what he did in the Ohio Stadium, because that young man put on a show. This episode is brought to you by DoorDash. Guys, it's the weekend. Time to look at and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For Ohio State, KENYATTA JACKSON Jr. delivered in a big way. He was a force all game long, not just from the tackles in the backfield or the sacks that he had, but also tipping balls at the line of scrimmage. K-Jack was a force. When the pressure was on, KENYATTA JACKSON Jr. came through. No hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, this performance wasn't a fluke. KENYATTA JACKSON Jr. is on a streak. And just like KENYATTA JACKSON Jr. delivered for the Buckeyes, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash streaks. You save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Promo period through November 18th. This episode is also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Guys, the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you could even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Once again, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you all for tapping Locked on Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. Well, not your first listen, but a part of your college football Saturday, where many of you might be like me. And you're a YouTube TV subscriber, and you were upset, maybe annoyed with the contract dispute, and really no contract happening right now between Disney and YouTube TV. YouTube TV wants fairness. Disney wants to be in front of your eyeballs. And nobody gets what they want because YouTube TV is not getting their money. Disney's not getting your eyeballs. It's not a good deal. So you're trying to find a way to make sure you watch a good college football game, and you want to watch a show. Now, Ohio State is going to be in front of our eyeballs, and you want to make sure on the college football Saturday, you see a quarterback that is real. And when I say real, I mean absolutely real, because Julian Sayin is just that. Julian Sayin is that dude. He's a dog. You can use any other phrase you want to use to describe how this man is when he's playing football, and all of them will describe Ohio State's QB1. Because Julian Sayin went to Ohio Stadium today, knew what Penn State could do, knew the firepower that they have on defense, and he said, cool, y'all want to give me some favorable situations for my receivers? That's great. We'll throw deep ball after deep ball after deep ball. Had a couple long balls thrown a piece to Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. And the next thing you know, those two guys combined for 11 catches for 247 yards and 3 touchdowns. Julian Sayin ended the day 20 of 23, 316 passing yards, and 4 touchdowns. Once again, Ohio State's QB1 has more touchdowns than completions on a college football Saturday. What more do you want, man? What more do you want? It ain't like he's just throwing 10 passes. No. You throw 23 passes in a college football game, and you only have 3? Man, I mean, this man continues to amaze us, and it just turns into Julian Sayin's show. The running game, we would all love to be more solid, to be stronger, and I do think some of the things they did with the offensive line, we'll start to see that. I think they might lean into running more left instead of trying to run right, left side, strong side. Those of us that watch and remember all the lines from Remember the Titans. Austin Servell, Luke Montgomery, Carson Hinsman have clearly paved their way as the best side for the Ohio State's offensive line, and it hasn't been a question. There's no dispute there, and that was a big reason why. Bo Jackson had some long runs, one of them being a 51-yard run where for the game, he had 13 carries, 105 yards, 8.1 yards a pop. Bo Jackson is separating himself as being the best running back for Ohio State. Isaiah West was, I think, the third back off the bench. He had 4 carries for 13 yards, 3.3 yards a pop. James Peoples was the fourth back off the bench, but man, He showed some promise. 4 carries, 19 yards, a long of 11. I'm there for it. Donaldson, the numbers aren't really needed as far as total yardage. He's more of your short yardage guy. He did have a fumble, but he did score the only rushing touchdown. And I'm going through all that on purpose because the Buckeyes had 164 rushing yards for the game, and that really wasn't needed because Julian Sayin found a way, in spite of the run game issues at times, to get the ball out quickly to the right guy, make the right read, and the rest is history. I can think of 2 incompletions that I know for a fact. Well, one incompletion that I know for a fact was a bad read. It was a bad throw, actually. It was a ball thrown to Brandon Anderson in the flat when he was throwing towards the bottom of the screen if you're watching on the TV, and it was behind him, and just didn't even have a shot to catch the ball. That was one. I thought it would have been 4 incompletions because he threw that ball that was tipped at the line of scrimmage in the red zone, ended up being a Jeremiah Smith touchdown. And so that was another one that was a bad decision. The first one that we just detailed, the throw to Ennis, that was a bad throw. The other one, just a bad decision that resulted in a touchdown. But that's become the norm for Julian Sayin when you were watching him play football. You're looking at him and thinking, okay, young man, are you going to be able to continue this play and to get better and better and better? Absolutely. And it's funny because I keep writing notes down during games, and I'm trying to see and trying to detail like throw after throw after throw. And it seems like there's always a third down catch that Tate or Smith have, or maybe even Claire. And Sayin throws a ball, and it's the right ball placement, it's the right timing, everything about the throw and the decision is correct. The first one on my page is a Julian Sayin pass to Jeremiah Smith on 3rd and 5 in the Buckeyes' first drive of the game. It was elite ball placement is a phrase that I put on my paper. Not great, not solid, but elite ball placement. Also put down here, Max Clare had a big block on Bo Jackson's run on the first drive, which was capped off by a touchdown pass thrown from Sayin to Jeremiah Smith. It was an RPO slant. It was RPO. The safety came up. Jeremiah Smith ran a slant. Touchdown. When we're talking about decision making, not only the first one with the ball placement on the pass to Jeremiah Smith on 3rd and 5 on the very first drive, but that RPO slant where, hey, if the safety is there, hand the ball off. If the safety comes down, you throw it. And he threw it while there was a man in one-on-one coverage, and that guy there couldn't do anything. And I like how Joel Klatt said it on the broadcast. He's a regardless receiver. Regardless of what the defense is doing, give the ball to him, throw it his way, and he's going to make something positive happen for your team. And that happened not only for Jeremiah Smith, but also for Carnell Tate. And the quick text that I got in this game, it was after a Tate reception. I forget which one it was. It was actually after his touchdown. A Michigan fan text me and said, "I'm scared of Tate, to be honest." And you should be. You absolutely should be. Because if you want to put more resources to Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate can beat you in one-on-one coverage, double coverage, maybe even triple coverage. It don't matter. Carnell Tate's going to get you. But Julian Sayin right now via our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook, pulled this up as we speak. He currently has the best betting odds to win the Heisman Trophy at plus 130. This is in real time. This is not after the fact or before the game. I believe before the game, he had the 3rd best odds. Right now, he has the 1st best odds. Julian Sayin is 1 at plus 130. Fernando Mendoza of Indiana is 2 at plus 270. Ty Simpson of Alabama is 3 at plus 480. Marcel Reed of Texas A&M is 4th with plus 850. And then Gunnar Stockton, quarterback at Georgia, is 5th. And this is a big drop off at plus 2,000. I don't think Diego Pavia, he's currently 6th. I don't think Diego Pavia by the end of the day will be in the top 6. He might still be in the top 10, but I don't think it's going to happen. But I would not be shocked if Julian Sayin maintains his spot at the top of this list throughout the rest of the season. Because let's remember, you can go into that Michigan game and either cement your spot of winning the Heisman Trophy or lose your spot of winning the Heisman Trophy. C.J. Stroud should have won the Heisman at least once. You go into the game against Michigan, you lose the game, wasn't really your best performance, you don't win the Heisman Trophy. Fernando Mendoza does not have a game to the caliber or even close to the caliber of the game against Michigan. Now, Michigan's record doesn't really matter because it is that game. It is the best rivalry in college football. And so that is a massive, massive stage. It is also, keep in mind, game number 12. So let's say everything goes the way that we believe it's going to, that Ohio State wins out in the regular season. They're playing in Indianapolis for the Big Ten title. That is that stage for Fernando Mendoza. But keep in mind, Julian Sayin would have already had a massive stage where he shined on against Michigan in the very next game. If he does what we think he's going to do and he shines against Fernando Mendoza, Heisman Trophy winner. So some of it is your Heisman moment. Some of it is consistency. You put those two things together, that's how you sway the voters. Now, is it a perfect process? No, not at all. Have there been guys that we think should have won the Heisman that did not? Absolutely. But Julian Sayin is at the top of the list right now, and if he keeps playing like he currently is, this young man is going to have a great shot, a great opportunity to win the Heisman Trophy in 2025. Thank you all for making Locked On Buckeyes a part of your college football Saturday. For your second listen today, check out Locked On Big Ten. Craig Sheeman is a guy that breaks down the most exciting conference in college sports, from the rivalries to the championship and every game in between. Find Locked On Big Ten on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This has been Locked On Buckeyes. You can follow me, not there yet. You can follow me on any social media platform at jsteven07. Get ahead of myself. You can also follow us on Facebook. Don't know how this has not been at the top of my mind. Locked On Buckeyes is now on Facebook, and we're going to be continuing our conversations there. There'll be some posts that are Facebook exclusive and specific to kind of fit the algorithm and the format that Facebook is. But Locked On Buckeyes is on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, you name it, we're there just to provide you with the Buckeye coverage that you love. This has been Locked On Buckeyes after Ohio State's 38-14 win over Penn State. We will be back with you tomorrow morning and trying to find a special guest to join us on Monday to talk about the Buckeyes' 9th straight win over Penn State and what's the best thing about being 8-0, a chance to go 9-0.